Chapter 19, being a full account of the happenings in the dark sewers. Jemmy headed for the only safe place he knew, the sewers. He scrambled along the docks, and the prince dogged him every step of the way. Jemmy turned on him like a cornered rat. "Ain't you done enough? You got a price put on my head. Go home and go to blazes." "But you're my friend," the prince stated, as if he were issuing a royal decree. "Don't count on it," replied Jemmy. He started down stone steps to the river, but the prince stopped him with a sudden, urgent yelp. "Look!" Looming on the cobbled wayside came the hulk of Hold-Your-Nose Billy, with Cutwater following as close as a cow's tail. Jemmy didn't wait to be spotted, but it was too late. The big outlaw, his hair and beard looking bonfire red under the bright sun, gave a distant yell, and altered course. Means he changed where he was running. Jemmy and the prince took the stairs in leaps. The tide was coming in, and the mud flat had shrunk to the width of a path. Jemmy led the way through a tarred forest of wharf pilings and over a derelict river barge. He leaped off into shallow water. He could already see the great brick mouth of a main sewer. "Don't leave footprints in the mud," he warned. They splashed along the water's edge and were there. The arched sewer stood tall enough for a horse and rider. Jemmy leaped the mud and was in, but the prince balked. "It's black as night in there. Jump, quick!" The prince steeled himself and made the leap. Jemmy advanced into the tunnel, but the prince held back. "Follow me. We'll be lucky if they didn't catch sight of us." The prince stood terrified of the darkness ahead. He had turned dead white. Jemmy made a grab and yanked the prince after him. "You'll get me caught." I'm scared, Jemmy." "Don't fret about the dark. There are rats in here. Even grown men are scared of them. Hang on to me." So what's he saying? Don't be scared of the dark. Be scared of the rats. There you go. Deeper and deeper, darker and darker, they sloshed through the carnivorous sewer. The gutters of the city overhead had dried, but old rain seeped and dripped from the glazed brick walls. Soon the mouth had receded to little more than a pinhole of light, and Jemmy stopped to catch his breath. "Blacker than a stack of black cats in here, ain't it? We should come to another passage before long. They'll never find us. Ease off my arm, you'll break it." "Jemmy," hardly above a breath. The prince's voice was stiff with fear. "Jemmy? Not Jemmy from the streets? Not boy?" "No wonder of it," Jemmy thought. "Like we was old knockabout friends of the streets." "I wish I were like you," muttered the prince. Jemmy was amazed. "Like me? You're not afraid of anything." "Of course I am. I'm afraid your paw'll hang me." "Not likely," Prince Brat said. Jemmy gave a small snort. "Not likely unless you give away my hiding place down here." "Do you think I'd do that, Jemmy?" Why did Jemmy say that?
Because he betrayed him already.
He already betrayed him. He gave away a spot to Cutwater. So he's saying, "I know who you are. You betrayed me before." And now Prince Brat says, "Do you think I would do that?" Jemmy said, "I don't know. Let's keep moving." As they edged along the wet walls, Jemmy gave his reply a second thought. He'd wronged the prince. This wasn't the same Prince Brat who'd run away the night before. Bored with his own meaningless and haughtiness and cruelty. "Reckon I do trust you," said Jemmy. And the prince replied, "I won't go back to the castle unless you go with me." "Gah!" Jemmy said. The main sewer branched off, and Jemmy had to stop to get his bearings. "Careful," he thought. "That passage to the left leads to the brewery. You could get eaten alive. Keep to the right branch." In the hollowness of the sewer there came a soft scurrying of feet, and then a distinct squeaking sound. So what do you think is there?
A rat.
The rats. The prince's fingers locked on Jemmy's arms like a manacle. Okay, so right now the author's giving you a lot of details. You know that it's very dark. You know there's water dripping. It's brick all around them. They're just kind of running through tunnels almost. And now they're scared. It's probably damp. I don't know if it's cold or not, but damp is where it's like you feel wet, almost like when it's humid, but it's kind of wet. It probably smells down there. Okay, so you should be feeling that as you're listening to the story. You should be imagining that. And then now you hear the little soft feet Of the rats, you can hear their squeaking. Nothing but a rat, Jimmy said. 2 of them, but nothing to worry about yet. Dark ain't so bad if you know what's in it. Like off to the left, so hang on to me. The prince's voice was almost inaudible. What's inaudible?
Not
Not able to hear it. Good. What's to the left? A brewery overhead. They empty their used up grain down the sewer, and the rats feed and breed by the hundreds. Grow big as street cats. You should have a picture of this in your head. It should be kind of freaking you out, scaring you. And short-tempered. They'll swarm all over you and hang on by their teeth. Still clinging to the birdcage, Jemmy continued feeling his way along. He wondered how he'd ever felt at home in these dank, smelly sewers. Then a sudden flicker of light from a side passage stopped him. He peered down the tunnel and saw a figure with a candle fixed to the stiff bill of his cap. So the bill of a cap, that's the part where you take your hat on or put it on, or take it off or put it on. So there's a candle hanging on that, or stuck on that. A rat catcher. He could see a cage full of squealing rats. He entered the passage and the man looked up. Who goes there? Didn't mean to give you a scare, Jimmy whispered. This is no place for boys. The man's full voice boomed and echoed through the sewers, and Jimmy took a quick look behind. Hold it down, sir, he said softly, and then he thought he recognized the rat catcher. Ain't you old Johnny Tosher? With the candle glowing from his hat hilt, the man bent forward. I declare, is that you, Jimmy? It is. Ain't you grown since you left the sewers? I'd be obliged if you'd snuff out your candle, sir. There's bloodthirsty ruffians after us. Speak up, said the old man, cupping a hand to his ear. Is it true you got taken up by the king himself? That's the gossip. What are you doing back in the sewers? Running for our lives. Eh? Your candle will give us away. What's that? You do us a kindness to pinch it out. Speak up, lad. Is he helping very much? No. Now you're a king's little gentleman. They learn you to talk in whispers? Come back for a visit, have you? Oh, your pa'd be proud. He gave the top of Jemmy's head a pat. They say you're Prince Brat's own whipping boy. Suddenly, the rat catcher straightened. Who's there? Looming up in the yellow glow stood an immense, hairy figure and a rattlebone man. Who's there?
Billy.
And
Cutwater.
Jemmy's heart stopped cold. What the blazes? Roared Hold Your Nose Billy. They flummoxed us, Cutwater. That one ain't the prince. It's the other. I heard, Cutwater cried out. We whipped the prince himself. Worse than common murder, you said. Aye, the king will skin us alive by inches. Mercy on us. But not if you don't find out. Both lurched forward to grab the boys. Jemmy swung the birdcage, knocking the candle flying. The flames sputtered out in the murky water, and the sewer was thrown into sudden darkness. So they're all real close to each other, but it's complete darkness. And it's hard to imagine, because even if I turn the lights off, there'll be a little bit of light from the window, the light from the hall. Complete darkness would be a room that has no lights, anything. There's no way to get sunlight in there, so it's absolutely dark. Run for it, Jemmy yelled out. I got one, cackled Cutwater. That's me you got, bellowed the rat catcher. Scurvy ruffian, who are you? Jemmy flattened himself against the wall, so you should see a picture in your head. They're in this dark, but he's up against the wall. Okay, he doesn't want to be caught. He flattened himself against the wall and found the prince already there. Wow, that was pretty good of the prince to figure out. He needed to flatten himself up there to hide. He heard a splash and a curse as Hold Your Nose Billy must have tumbled over Cutwater and the rat catcher. In an urgent whisper, the prince asked, which way? Jemmy made an instant decision. The villains might be able to run them down in this smaller side channel, back to the main sewer. He gave the prince's sleeve a quick tug, and the prince reached out for Jemmy's hand. Off they went, linked together, while the outlaws untangled themselves. Which way did they go? Cried out Cutwater. Listen for them. Jemmy froze. He didn't breathe. He waited, and he became suddenly aware of the prince's hand clasped in his own. So they're hanging on to each other. His first impulse was to withdraw his fingers, but the prince was hanging on for dear life. It was the same as a handshake, and he remembered the prince's own words. It felt friendly and trusting, but the wonder of it, shaking hands with Prince Brat? Stop where you stand, warned Hold Your Nose Billy. Wherever you are, we'll catch you, added Cutwater. You'll never make it out. Which way is out? Snapped the big outlaw. The same way you came in, answered the rat catcher. Put your back to the breeze from the main sewer. That was wrong. Good old Tosher, Jemmy thought. He meant to send them off in the opposite direction. So the rat catcher finally figured out that he needs some help. Jemmy tugged on the prince's hand and they scuttled along the wall toward freedom. A moment later, Jemmy could feel a stronger breeze, and he knew that they were in the main sewer again. Noses to the breeze, they could make a run for the river. But in his sudden elation, Jemmy banged into the wall with the bird cage. His hair rose. The clatter was loud enough to wake the dead or bring the villains running. Jemmy made an abrupt turn, pulling the prince deeper into the main sewer, and he whispered, "They'll see us against daylight before we can get out. More holes than a wormwood down here. We'll duck into another side tunnel, but if we break loose, don't lose your bearings. The brewery's dead ahead." Remember, the brewery has all the grain, which means it has all the rats. The sound of feet sloshing through the water silenced them. Jemmy felt desperately for the mouth of the side tunnel, but Hold Your Nose Billy and Cutwater had already rushed into the main sewer. "Which way, Billy?" muttered Cutwater. Jemmy flattened himself against the grave cold wall, but the prince seemed suddenly to rebel at being chased down like a sewer rat. He yanked the birdcage out of Jemmy's hand and flung it with all his might. So Jemmy was trying to be very quiet about it, and now the prince has taken it, he's throwing it, so you know it's going to make what? It's going to make a loud noise. It banged and clattered off the bricks in the direction of the brewery. "What's that?" cried out Cutwater. "Them is what? Put your back to the breeze, straight on." They barged ahead. Only moments later, old Tosher appeared across the great sewer, a fresh candle lit on the bill of his cap. And then Hold Your Nose Billy and Cutwater came flying back. I'm bit! Help!" Grain-fed rats were swarming over the two of them, nipping and biting and clinging like leeches. Leeches are they're little things from the water. They suck your blood, right?
That's vampires.
In the light of the candle, Cutwater waved his arms wildly. He screeched and the hairy outlaw bellowed. "I declare," said the prince, "they look like they're wearing fur coats." Why do they look like they have fur coats on?
Because
Because the rats are all over them.